Hey everyone, Sean Corbett, eXp Realty. I've got a special guest today. Many of you at eXp will know this gentleman. His name's Rick Carr. He's been a managing broker for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
Is that right? How long have you been with eXp?
Into my third year.
Okay. So you are a managing broker, lots of experience managing offices and stuff like that. I wanted to kind of dive in and look at Rick's experience, things he's done, and to kind of like bridge that into a lot of you in the audience that I have, they like to talk about real estate as an investment. And Rick's going to show us how we're going to guarantee the investment for guaranteed returns. Just kidding. We're going to look at residential specifically in investing. I think you've been, you've got a lot of experience working with both investors and doing it yourself.
Yes.
You know, so I want to kind of talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to jump right in. I like to be right to the point.
Let's do it.
So you've been in real estate for about how many years?
I'm going into my 29th year.
Okay.
I was first licensed in 1995 in Colorado.
Wow. Did they have real estate back then?
They did, barely.
Wow, that is a long time ago. And then from there, I know you were in the Army?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
88 to 92.
Before that, so you did that before you got into real estate.
I did.
You got into real estate.
I did.
I know you had a stint and your parents were in the mobile home business. And you kind of got into, is that kind of what introduced you into real estate?
Yeah, I would say that housing, homes, sales has been in my blood. My father was one of the original founders of the TMHA, Texas Manufactured Housing Association.
Okay.
And he passed away 6 months after I got out of the Army.
Wow.
And so I inherited his business along with my sister and ran it with my mother until she passed away about a year after that.
Wow.
So that was my crash course in business as a 25-year-old,
Okay.
managing people 2 or 3 times my age, and just learning along the way.
Is it Granbury area?
Granbury,
Okay.
Yeah, Hood County.
That's the area that you grew up in.
It is.
I was trying to think, what's the, I was thinking of Weatherford's, the Fighting Kangaroos.
The Pirates of all things. I don't know why we'd have a pirate in the middle of Texas, but Granbury Pirates.
Yeah, it must be all that ocean you've got.
Must be.
Yeah, I don't know if they have very many pirates on Lake Granbury.
I'm thinking not.
So that got you into real estate, and then I think it seems like you moved pretty quickly into managing and teaching and training other agents. So after mobile home, what did you get in? What was the next thing?
Well, mobile home industry, I sold my father's dealership in 95, and I jumped into real estate. As a husband, father of one child and another on the way. So 4 years old was my son at that point. My daughter was 0 in my first year.
So sell or starve.
That's right.
That's not one of the businesses we normally recommend jumping into when you've got 2 young ones and you've got nothing else going.
I'm telling people it's it's an amazing business, but as a 25-year-old, I say failure wasn't an option. It's not that it wasn't an option, it's that it wasn't even a consideration. Maybe I was naive. I know that as my 54-year-old self now, if I could go back and talk to my 25-year-old self, I'd probably try to talk myself out of being in the business, right? 100% commission, you need insurance nowadays, and there's a lot of reasons why you go to work, but I just didn't consider it,
I think having your back against the wall without any other options creates something additional, as either we're going to make it or we're going to starve.
Yeah, it can motivate you, it can crumble you.
If you put it down on paper and do the logical, you're not going to like
not at all.
It's not a good investment.
Without a doubt.
And most, unfortunately, don't make it. It's not meant for everyone.
Right.
I do talk to a lot of agents, and I recognize that it's just not an industry designed for everyone in mind.
Right.
You are a straight entrepreneur. You are totally independent. You're on your own to take care of everything, and it's. And again, most don't make it, certainly don't pass 2 years.
Looks glamorous from the outside in, but once you get in, you realize it's a lot of work.
So you've been here doing this a long time. I can't, and I'm sure you can relate, how many stories you hear of people that are, either teachers or engineers or some other field. Well, I'm going to go get my real estate license. And it happens all the time because from the outside looking in, my own hours. I get to go show homes.
Right, it's glamorous.
And, homes sell themselves.
I'm
There's
watching
not much
List
negotiation.
LA.
Yeah, they make it's no problem. Every time they win.
Right, exactly.
And you and I are in the flipping business. And for whatever reason on TV, they all make money.
They all make money. They never show a settlement statement at the end of that season, at the end of that show, do they?
Yeah, and they take out a lot of expenses that we know should be included in there.
Right,
and they leave it out.
Without a doubt.
It ain't just rehab, and we've got other things. So that's a fun side topic.
It is.
So you were, I know you've been a broker owner for several places, or broker for several places.
Yeah.
You actually had your own Carr Realty.
Right.
And that was Carr Realty Investments. So what was your investment? What were you focused
Yeah, I
on?
owned Stepping Stone Realty and Carr Realty Investments.
You had them together.
Well, they were one sister companies, we'll say.
Okay.
The investment side worked with private investors. The real estate side worked to service the listings, service the purchases and the sales.
Okay. And you and I have talked over the phone.
Yeah.
A similar model. I have
Yes.
Rise Real Estate Partners. That's the one that I use to work with investors and taking them from start to finish on flipping or rental or whatever they want to do. And then, I have True West Realty Group, which I run underneath EXP.
Okay.
And it's basically a referral group that I've created that I just carried my brand forward. So I do all my listings with that. So
Yeah.
very similar, type of setup that I have. And then did you leave there to go to HomePath? Or was it all kind of around the same time?
Let's see.
Or I'm actually reading this backwards.
Yeah.
HomePath led you into that because you were flipping houses for that particular brand, right?
I was. The owner of HomePath approached me and said, hey, I've got an opportunity. I said, I'm not interested. He came back and said, hey, I've got an opportunity, and showed more money. And I said, well, now you've got my interest. A great person to work for, a guy by the name of Jeff, but just a great individual to work for. A lot of confidence in me. When Jeff approached me, he had $150,000 of investor money. And he wanted me to use that money, as much of it as I could, to purchase and conduct the rehab.
Yeah.
And
What year was this, do you think?
that was in, I'm going to say 12, 11-ish, 12-ish.
So it's doable then. Today probably wouldn't do as much, but
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, with
But
sales
then-
prices, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I'm a tank gunner. I was a tank gunner in the Army, and so I equated it to the battlefield. And what I told him is that, hey, I'm watching a bunch of targets above 150 and a bunch below.
Yeah.
And if I could open this up and acquire other targets, we can really hit this hard. But with that first one, I knew that I couldn't stumble out of the gate.
Yeah.
And I have some rehabbing experience as well. When I took over my father's mobile home business, he would take trade-ins, and the trade-ins would come in kind of like a car business.
Yep.
The trade-ins would come in, and we would dress them up, do some things to them, get them out there, and sell them.
You'd flip them.
Yeah. So that taught me the necessary skill of working with contractors and trades.
Yeah.
Right. And I started learning that at the age of 22, and that's something I've carried all the way through, and was a definite asset as I got into the flipping side of things. When you're doing both the real estate broker and the general contractor, there's a lot of pressure, but really there wasn't that much, right? It's only as much as you really put on yourself. I was able to just apply the skills that I had learned early on in my life to what I was doing for HomePath, and it worked. When Jeff came to me, he just wanted me to watch the rehabs.
Gotcha.
And I said, bro, dude, we're doing this wrong. I can create a real estate company. That's what I do. I can create it. I can establish it. We can have finders. And we grew it to that.
Started with one.
Started with one
The
unit.
objective was flipping,
150,000.
and then it
was.
turned into rentals and wholesale a little bit.
A little bit of wholesale, no rentals. I wish that it was rentals, because at my position, rent and hold position, I can pay more for a property than if I'm going to turn it in 90 or 120 days and expect a 15, 20, 25% return on it.
For investors out there, that normally means your buy box allows you to buy at a higher percentage
Yes.
of expected value.
Without a doubt.
Yeah,
Without a doubt.
because the risk is lower,
Without a doubt.
and the rehab's typically less intensive.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd say so. It's pretty fair statement.
So I found you pointed out the contractor element. You wanted to get in and do that. This is kind of in just doing the ones that I've done, I find that most things are generally pretty fixed with small ranges. For example, ARV. You're going to have a range. You're typically going to be $5,000 to $10,000 range. Your purchase price is your point of what you're really going to make is always about the buy. But the one variable that is always most crucial is that general contractor or the contractors you hire. They're all variables, and they can promise you everything,
Yeah.
and then if they don't deliver, everybody loses.
Right.
So I always found that was one of my most critical component of all the flips I ever did was my contractors. years?
Man, without a doubt, and estimating the rehab was the most challenging for me to educate others to be able to do and train. I built a team of finders. I'd have an agent say, hey, I've got my first one. He'd come out and look at it. I'd look at the numbers. It would be a Preston wood flip, a house built in the 60s maybe. And they would come in and say that, their estimated rehab was $25,000.
On Prestonwood?
Yeah, and at that point, $700,000 ARV.
Correct. Yeah.
And I would walk in and
you're like, no.
And they'd say, well, look at the chandelier, it's shabby chic. Like, get out of here. So I had formulas, I had spreadsheets, I had a lot of things, but that was a definite strength, was understanding that rehab process. And also, and so much so that I brought it in-house. I didn't contract it out. I did it all on my own. And then I brought in construction managers. And then I got so big between Dallas and Fort Worth that I had to bring in site superintendents, because I found my construction manager was running from Fort Worth to Dallas, Addison just running in a circle all day long and not being really effective. So we brought in a site superintendent for Dallas to monitor the projects, to be on the ground, and a site superintendent at Fort Worth. But definitely that can get away from you. And but it's a strength. But it was the hardest thing to teach and train others to estimate rehab. But I used to tell builders at one point in my career, I represented 6 different builders as their agent, little independent builders in a small community. And one of my lines to them was, if you want to lie to your banker, that's on you, but don't lie to yourself about what this home is worth. Don't overbuild.
That's good.
And with my general contractors or with my construction managers.
They think they can make money on every dollar they spend in there. And sometimes it helps it sell faster, but it doesn't give you more value.
That was the key, is being profitable, right? I can make anything nice and beautiful, but I've got to be profitable. So I was looking for that break point, at which point the market would say, no, bro, we need new windows to get that price. Or we need this, or we need additional square footage. So I was always looking for that press point. Could I get away with doing this versus? And when I rehabbed, I was a tear out and hide rehabber, or tear out and replace rather than a cover and hide. And it's so much so that I saw that other people in the industry were cover and hiders. So when I would come into something that had been flipped, I'd pull off some metal siding around the fascia or eaves, and I'd see that they were just covering rotted wood. So I always built a product or finished out with a product that I felt that I would stand behind, live in myself, and be proud of.
And less risk of being sued later.
Man, without a doubt. And I'm looking at that. One of the first interviews I had with that company, they brought a general contractor in, and the guy said,
you did not go through general contractor. You were the construction manager
and the broker.
And you would hire directly individual
I would hire the trades myself.
You would hire the trades
I would GC
yourself.
them.
Well, certainly that's a savings up front.
Dude, I'm telling you, I like to say when you're flipping, if you could be an expert in one of the areas, an expert on the real estate side of it, or an expert in construction, your chances of making it are better, right? Because I'm not having to pay you retail to rehab my home. I'm not having to pay an agent additional commissions. One or the other, I think, and that really adds weight. But when you bring both to the table, there were times that I was profitable that I wouldn't have if I wasn't doing both things, quite frankly. And, I'd have my investors come and say I was using private money, not hard money. I had built up a track record to be able to say, hey, here's 32 flips, and here's the average return. And it never failed. When I was going after private money, I'd have an investor say, well, show me the ones you lost on. And they're right here. Here's this one and here's this one. But the cool thing is that the bank still got paid. I couldn't go back to the bank and say, well, that one I didn't have as much success with as I'd like to have had. So can I pay you a little bit less this time? The bank always got paid.
It's important that you deliver that message, because they're investing in you. So at worst case, they at least get their return, their money back.
Yeah, without it. Oh, yes, always.
I always think that, like, for anyone investing in real estate, just in general, at least you start, generally, if you do just a basic job, you should at least get your money back.
Man, without a doubt.
Yes, sir. You may not make that 20 or 30% return in the short run, but just at least investing in an asset that it ain't going to be zero.
Right.
You're not going to lose all of it.
Sometimes hitting a home run, sometimes breaking even equates to hitting a home run. They're not all going to be grand slams. Right. You move on to the next one.
Yeah. That's why you have to do multiple in order to.
Without a doubt.
So when you started with the 150, my immediate thinking is, why not leverage the 150 into 3 flips, and not just one flip, and then you would leverage, and that's me because I'm a leverage guy.
Yeah.
I believe leverage can allow us to scale.
Okay.
150 gives me one in 90, 120 days if you're efficient.
Yeah.
But 150 could get me 3 in that same period of time with a little less return on each because of interest, because you're leveraging. What's your thinking on that?
Well, I like the philosophy, right? Without a doubt, I'm big on leverage. This individual, this company came and they had private money and they had made promises.
They wanted to see one start to finish 150. You do it, you
All
success.
he had was
we'll unlock the
150.
door. Yeah,
and
we'll
didn't
unlock
have
the
the
door.
ability, or he didn't have hard money or other loans. He had just somebody with 150K saying, "Go make me some money."
Yeah, in 2012, they're probably hard money was not the same.
Oh, absolutely
Now
not.
every other shop down the corner's got hard money, and
Without a
they'll
doubt.
lend to people who've never done it.
Right, without
Yeah.
a doubt. They start to jump on top of each other like catfish in a pond that you're feeding, getting more aggressive.
Yeah.
The lenders, yeah.
All right, so we'll come back to investment in just a
Sure.
little bit. I want to kind of go. So today you are a managing broker at EXP.
Right.
How many managing brokers are in Texas?
Now we have 14. We had 6 when I started.
Wow. And I
Wasn't
knew a
a lot
number of
rest.
them even before. I think you and I were talking the other day. I named a few people before you came
Yeah.
on. Just because
Yeah.
I've been here a little bit longer than you
Right,
have.
without a doubt, yeah.
So, and I got to know them,
Yeah.
pretty well. Michael Urito is one of them. He lived right like 3 minutes from my office.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
I've heard a lot of good things about him. When I came in, they gave me North Texas, and I was here with another broker who wasn't here much longer after I got here. She left, 6, 7 months after I got here. So at one point, and I kind of filled in Michael's spot.
Yeah.
And then she left, and I found myself as the only managing broker in the North for a while. And that's when we still put the managing broker names on the IBSs, on the contracts, and
Yes.
MLS. So I had a full-time job for sure. I had a lot to cover, a lot of ground to cover. At that point, 2,200 agents in North. So it was
So it's a
absolutely
little,
amazing
it's a little bit
concept.
more fluid, right? So you say 2,200, you work for and help support, but the reality is we have to be more fluid with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have EXP Workplace, EXP
Yeah.
World, and in the World is the ability to go in and talk to brokers at any time,
Yes.
live, right there. You can talk with them
Right.
through the virtual world. So we have that. So you could be an agent in Houston, and then you be the agent on duty, the broker on duty, and they'd be talking to you about whatever their concerns are.
9,200 agents in Texas, without
Yeah.
a doubt. I'll help agents from El Paso to Brownsville, Amarillo, Tyler, all points in between. And what Tony King, our former DMB, had the idea of was taking down the walls
Yeah.
and understanding just that same concept that I might be in the broker room helping an agent in Houston, El Paso, or other areas that weren't my market area. And that's when we went to the single system IABS with only one number and one name on it, taking off the delegated supervisor managing broker role. And now it's just the EXP, the DMB, and the agent. And that's been great because it's pushed all of the incoming information, requests, complaints, anything else to one email and one phone number. And when I first started, those were staffed by staff. Now they're staffed by brokers. So when you send an email to tx.broker at exprealty.net, that's going to be looked at and handled by a broker.
Do all brokers get the same email?
No, we have individual emails, but we try to push all of our stuff to the tx.broker.
So it kind of may rotate. So you might get a broker email, and then maybe next time it goes to somebody else.
Well, what I do is I come in and I actually take control of the box. Like yesterday,
Okay,
I was
there
on
you go.
duty.
That's how you
so
do it.
I'm sitting at the inbox, and I'm if I'm not pulling tickets, I pull tickets for half of the day. People
Yeah.
coming into the broker room. The other half of the day, I'm literally answering the phone. Or handling the email workplace chats that come into the group. So, I mean, it's super efficient, and we're always looking for ways to get better, never resting on where we are or what we've done.
So here's a real critical component, right? So I know one of the things people look at, you have 9,200 agents here. How can you possibly have a broker that would be available to me as an individual agent? That's a really pushback on even
Yeah.
the virtual model. It wouldn't just be
Yeah.
EXP.
Right.
But we happen to be the biggest.
Right.
We have the most agents in Texas, certainly in our model for sure. How do you respond as a broker to that type of question?
Man, when I run an office, I say it feeds my ego, and I'm the only one running the office.
So this is
It's
you as a
good place to
broker
be.
owner.
As a broker.
Yes, as if you had your own business, your own
Right.
brokerage, it would look like that. You'd be feeding your own ego. Keep going.
Yeah, I've got 40 hours to give, right? I don't
Right.
want to work much more. If I have my own place, then I'm not on the clock. But if I'm hired by somebody to come in and run their Coldwell Banker store, then I'm going to push for a 40-hour work week, and you're going to get more than your money's worth in that 40 hours. But the thing about being a broker running a place on your own like that is that I can only be in one place at a time. So if I'm sick, I'm on vacation, I'm out of office, I'm training, I'm with an agent, limited access. I heard somebody tell an agent, well, when you go to EXP, you won't know who your broker is. Well, I don't know, maybe at some point in the past it might have been that way, but that's not where we are as a company. Today we finished up a session where I had an opportunity to come to a local region, a local market, and meet with agents. Somebody saw our broker team in Houston last night with 6 of our brokers and our regional operations manager at an event. Glenn Sanford is in Houston today with our broker team. Dude, we answer the phones, the broker team, not me individually, but brokers staff our phones from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. Sunday morning, if I have duty, I'm up at 7 a.m. waiting for the phone to ring. Saturday, if I have duty, I'm in the broker room, 9 to 1, waiting for the phone to ring. 12 hours a day. That's 84 hours access to a broker in 1 week.
Yeah.
Show me another brokerage or broker that's available 84 hours.
Yeah.
I don't see it.
Yeah. So how many hours do you spend answering phones? Out of curiosity.
When I'm on duty, I'm usually
shifts a week.
I do have 2 shifts a week, and I'm on for 10 hours on those shifts.
On the phone.
Pulling tickets and answering phones and email. So we combine we call it a duty day. So the first part of the day, 9 to 1, I'm pulling tickets. I take a quick lunch from 1 to 5. I'm handling emails and workplace chats and answering the phone. But that goes all the way to 7 o'clock. So, at 6:55, I'm looking at my watch last night saying no whammies. Don't call me at 6:55. If you do, you're the same one that walks into a restaurant 15 minutes before they close. You're still going to get service, but, no, I'm kidding. But it's huge and it's powerful, and corporate has come in and filled positions. Like I said, we have almost 3 times as many brokers as when I started. With I think our agent count was 6,800 in the state when I started.
And they have, I know it's one of those things that having virtual offices allowing brokers to maybe represent as a BOR for unlimited number of agents. They've actually set up what the number is. Do you know what it is per agent?
Who set that up? Do you mean EXP?
I think Trek did. Trek, I think, came in and said 1,500 or something per broker.
I'm not aware of that.
It sounds like we're way beyond that, but it's because there are virtual companies that just open up their doors and say, hey, join me. $300 a transaction,
Flat
whatever,
fee.
And you'll never hear from me. There's no support. There's no nothing.
Right.
And they'll have 5,000 people that sign up for it. There's no way they can support that.
No.
So Trek has pushed back on what they allow for the number of agents per. I didn't know if you knew
And supervision, I don't off the top of my head, and supervision is a key, and responses.
Right. There's
Trek's
no way
come
you
back
can be
and said
responsible for
you've
that
got
money.
2 days to respond to
There's
a
that
broker
too.
on the other side. And I've seen that as I get involved in these broker disputes where it's there's an issue with the agents, it gets escalated to the brokers, and then the brokers try to work it out before it goes any further. It's kind of my specialty and it's my niche. But it is
de-escalating. Getting to the root issue.
But I'm telling you, bro, knowing my contracts and not having an ego so that when I'm wrong, I don't consider the fact that I might be and or educate myself, but knowing the contracts. I used to be a teacher for Champion School of Real Estate.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I really honed my skills as a presenter and speaker. That's back when a 30-hour course, real estate course, was taught over 30 hours. 10-hour days. I'd teach Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
I taught 7 days a week, but I'd teach a 30-hour course over Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 10 hours a day. I know the contracts and I understand them. Hey, I'm not perfect. I'm not the best thing since sliced bread, but I say knowledge is power. and understanding transactions, understanding contracts, and applying some common sense to that as well. So that when I have to go head to head with another broker from another company in their backyard, and I'm a big city folk out of Dallas, and I've got to go into a small market and then have a discussion with the broker, part of what you'll see and what I experienced as a managing broker, a designated broker myself, was that there are regional interpretations. So the way we might interpret something here in DFW and San Angelo,
we do it this way here.
Different. Yes. Yeah. So it's important to go at them with confidence, but also to be pretty firm. And I want to try to work things out at our level. And you know the old saying, you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar.
Sure.
But buddy, when I know the contract better than you do, that bodes well for my clients and or for my agents.
Sure, and our side,
have a better understanding, definitely. Yes.
How often do you see those turn away from? I mean, in your experience working broker to broker before it goes to the board or to TREC or becomes a complaint, how often has that happened with transactions you've worked with?
It doesn't happen very often.
Where you just can't come to a situation where you're going to agree. There's too much heels pushed in the ground.
And that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I say,
just
quite frankly, sometimes pride and ego stops the broker from coming to the realization, arriving at the realization that they're wrong. And I hate to admit that. But I just got done with a case. The broker had been in 30 plus years. A really good broker, I think. A very intelligent broker, but she was wrong in this one point. And she just dug her heels in. And I was amazed. I was just blown away, quite frankly, that, man, you're going to ride this sinking ship all the way to the bottom of the sea. I mean, I'm kind of impressed at your resolve, but you're wrong, And part of what I was telling her is that everybody is watching us. And this argument and this dispute isn't good for our brand, the Realtor brand. Everybody's watching. Do the right thing. So
there's plenty of outside pressure against our industry and what we do and how we represent clients. And, and that's an important consideration. I agree with you. I like how you put it, that the outside is watching. Ones that are not doing the real estate stuff, they would not understand or consider our position if we're going to act this way. And that's a really good way to put it.
Thank you.
Are you still working with buyers and sellers?
Rarely. I've been at it. I'm going into my 29th year, and I sold my first 12 years and jumped to top producer status by the end of my second year. And quite frankly, went through some burnout about my 10th year. I tell people, when you put your business number one, and in this case, I put my business number one. We talked about that, 2 small kids. I jump into the real estate industry as a 25-year-old, 100% commission, no insurance, no benefits. It's a tough spot to be, but real estate has just been very good to me, right? There's an old Saturday Night Live, Garrett Morris used to say, baseball been very, very good to me, and that's what I say with real estate, that it's been good to me. But anyway.
I ask, so you have a 31-year-old?
31-year-old.
31-year-old has friends. They're at that stage. They're ready to buy houses. Hey, call your dad. Can he help me? What do you tell him?
I would probably refer him out. I had one of the brokers that taught me early on in the business, when people would send her business because she had a lifetime of being in the business, would want to send people to her. And she'd say, honey, you're better with one of my agents. With the time that I have and my focus, you're really better off with one of my agents. And that's kind of the way I feel too. I'll do it, but really there are probably people out there that do it 100% of the time that would do a better job of it. Now, I will refer it out. Sometimes I'll refer things to my daughter or people close to me so that I can watch them through the transaction and kind of assist, and that's something I'll do. But I need somebody else to do the legwork.
Well, and you built your current position in working in residential real estate a certain way that isn't conducive for that part of the business, ironically, because that's where we all get paid, but you help support others that are getting paid.
Definitely.
And that's kind of how you built your business today.
Definitely.
You do quite a bit of training for agents. You worked at Champions.
I did.
Actually, did you ever work at the one in Capel when you were
did.
there? Yeah, I went to classes there before they split and did Fort Worth and Dallas.
It was
and
before
Plano.
Fort Worth. Mhm.
Yeah.
When I first went to work for Champions, Rita Santa Maria, the owner of Champions,
Houston, yeah.
is an absolute icon in the industry, kind of like an Ebby to the industry. She's an icon. It was very fortunate that she brought me on and gave me an opportunity to teach. And I started with her teaching continuing ed. And then I moved into second tier, which was all of the core classes. And then from there, I went all over the state teaching broker prep and agent prep for Champions, how to pass the real estate exam. So that's where I really honed my skills. But, I before I went into that industry, that little bit of burnout in year 10, going into 12, I had always been the type of agent that helped people, and people would gravitate to me. And I always thought to myself, it can't be that I'm smarter, better, faster than my peers. But looking back on my career, I think it's because the agents knew that I would spend time with them. Sometimes I would think, why didn't you go to the broker? Or even ask. And what I found is that sometimes they were worried that the broker might know that they don't know everything. And I'd say good brokers already know that, and they welcome the opportunity to educate and train along the way. So I was always that agent. There's a tendency in our business that when we strike pay dirt, when we start to do something well, you're a testament to this, that people cover with their arms. They don't want anybody else to see what they're doing. I always thought, you're not me. You can take my system, but you're not me. For better or worse, you're not me.
That's funny. I think the exact same thing.
And I love it. And that's part of why we're here today with what you're doing. That's huge.
I teach and train anything that I think is duplicatable.
Yeah.
I don't teach things that are not duplicatable.
Okay.
We talk about a lot of things, and we may get into some of it. I'm not going to talk about certain elements, but I do teach and train anything that's duplicatable, even if they would be directly competing with me in some sense.
Yeah.
Because I know they're not going to be me.
Right.
But I'm okay helping others because I think it will pay its way back at some point as well.
I think so too.
I do that often. That's one of the things I do appreciate. I'm in a couple of EXP collaborative type groups where there's higher performing agents that sell. And I'll tell you, it's real funny. I'll tell you one funny thing. I was talking to an agent. They worked at a KW office, and it was one of the. They were talking about their mentor. I said, "Who's your mentor?" They told me their name, and I knew the person they're talking about. And I said, "Okay, what position is she? What ranking?" And they said, "Oh, she's probably the top selling agent in the office." And every time you go to a KW office, it's always that's the number one office in all of Texas.
Yeah.
Every KW office you go to.
Right.
And I said, okay, well, you're top producing agent at the top office in all of Texas.
Right.
What is she producing a year? And they said about 25 million. And I said, okay, I'm just me.
Yeah.
And I did 32 million, and then I did 37 million. And I said, it's just me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're telling you the whole story, but it sounds like they're leaving a lot out.
Right.
Anyway, I say all this. I get into an EXP meeting with other EXP agents that are selling as much as I am. And we would never look at going to another franchise brokerage because I keep all of my money. EXP pays me more than I pay them. It's really hard to explain that to someone that works at another office and understand that.
Right.
But we have agents here that sell a lot more real estate than they're telling you that everyone else is selling.
Right.
Anyway, I told you all that because it's a collaborative environment.
Yes.
We get around these other agents that are selling a lot of real estate. They have really good tips. And I take from all the things that I have from them. Some of them I won't use because I won't do cold calling systems.
Right.
I don't do the FSBOs, the expire listings, some of the stuff I know you're good at teaching. I don't get into that because it's not my business.
Yeah.
My business has been fortunately sphere of influence.
Okay.
And I've been able to build a pretty good business just through that. So I generally only work with people I know or know me, and I can determine my hours and who I work with.
Without
right?
doubt.
That's the referral-based business. So, but having the ability to go to them, I take all these tips, and then I teach and train other agents. I go and share them with all the other agents that I work with.
Yeah.
So that's just a really cool collaborative thing that we have. And I don't feel like that's the same if you get into a small regional box brokerage. They're all competing with each other.
Yeah.
They're all clamoring for that top position at that brokerage, and they're all in a local market fighting each other on their own local turf.
Right.
It doesn't happen like that at EXP because even some of the meetings we go to, we'll have 30 people in there. We're really kind of all over Dallas-Fort Worth 1.
Yeah.
And we all have our own kind of regions and local markets. But even if we didn't, real collaborative.
Yeah.
And I know there's a really cool thing called list. What's it called? The list thing where we're going to be able to have our own internal network. Of
Zenlist.
Zenlist. Is that something you can talk about?
Not prepared today,
Not
but
ready.
that's definitely it's EXP's forward thinking and taking into consideration the state of affairs as it pertains to buyer agency
Yeah.
and the Sherman antitrust laws
Yes.
and lawsuit. But it's a brand new concept to EXP. It's basically an exclusive listing portal. And dude, with where are we at? 86,000 agents. It's absolutely.
It's just short of 90,000.
Yeah,
We're
it's
just
every
short of
time I
90,000.
sleep and wake up,
Yeah.
there are more, and it's absolutely amazing. So we're primed, we're positioned to do this.
Yeah, you think Dallas-Fort Worth, we've got 2,200, 2,500 agents just in Dallas-Fort
Yeah.
Worth. Being able to market and promote to our internal agency.
We're all under the same DMB. Karen Richards holds 9,200 licenses.
Yeah.
And we don't have the individually owned stores. And so, I mean, we're built for this.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're built for a lot of things, but that's
Yes.
one clever option. Okay, what topics do you like to cover when you're doing training programs and things like that? What's your specialty?
Productivity, I think, teaching agents productivity, ethics, but really productivity, right? Latest two modules I wrote, The Road to Becoming a Top Producer. Just wrote that last month. And then the buyer agent value proposition. I consider myself a motivator, somebody that inspires. And that's the type of leader I've been. In my trainings, when people come to my training, I want them to look at it the same way that I look at it when I go to somebody else's training. Dude, you haven't written the Bible on real estate. But if I can go to your session and pick up one thing out of the 2-3 hours all day, whatever we spent together, take it back to my office, apply it to my business, and have success with it, then it was worth your time. Yeah. So when I get in front of a group of 30, that's what I'm trying to do. I want to give them one thing. If they want to buy everything I'm selling, cool. I'll continue to sell it. And I want them to, but it's based on my experience, right? So mine isn't the only way or the only program or system. There are a lot of ways to get to that end result. But that's my goal, is that hoping you'll take one thing. You'll be motivated. You'll be inspired. And I get a lot of that. And that's really my passion. So EXP had an opportunity to become a national trainer for EXP. And I applied for that. And they said, hey, you're in. Let's go to the next round. We want you to teach. And they handed me a module to teach, and it was SkySlope. And SkySlope is our online file cabinet. Yeah. You can generate forms and things of that nature with it.
Not really your exciting, motivating factor.
I respectfully declined.
Yeah.
I said, I appreciate it, but I have no passion for SkySlope. Yeah. Anybody without a license or without experience in brokerage can teach SkySlope and probably do a better job than me at it. I don't have a passion for it. So when I teach or train or speak, there are things that I have a passion for. And I think I sell that naturally, right? If I don't believe in what I'm presenting, or don't have a passion for it, I think it comes off as a completely different training session.
Sure. Yeah, it would be sterile and maybe fraud as a way to feel.
Right.
To exaggerate.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I get it.
All right. Let's talk about investors and working with them as clients. Mm-hmm. Do you still have investors that you work with at all? Or you've kind of deterred from all that, focused on training, focused on broker operation? Is that really where you're at right now?
I work, last week I worked 12-hour days. With the exception of Sunday. 6 days, 12-hour days, and Sunday was the only day I didn't work, and one of those days was a 14-hour day. I have to maintain balance. And
so you're working that many days in a row. Is this by choice or by? I'm asking kind of loosely.
Yeah.
I know there's only so much you can say no to.
Yeah, right.
But is this really something that you have much control over? Is that what the demand is right now for that position?
The demand's a little less on the average managing broker, but some of us that have been there a while, paid their dues, or built up confidence in leadership, I was filling in for the designated managing broker for a good part of that while she was convention and doing some other things. And I consider that, and I welcome the opportunity, and I enjoy that. But it meant that I was doing just not only my job and my duties, but hers as well. So it's just something that had to be done. But I pour everything I have into every day. I've never learned how to half-step a job. right? People say good enough for government work. I want to know what government they worked for, because the government I worked for, called the U.S. Army, under the Department of the U.S. Army, made me roll my socks 3 inches by 1.125 inches, and put them 1/4 of an inch from my drawer. So I don't know about cutting corners, and I don't know about half stepping anything. All I know is doing it right, and doing it right the first time, pouring everything I have into it. The times that I've worked for other people, this being one of them, I don't know how to turn it off. I don't know how to treat it like it's not my company.
No.
I don't say at 5 o'clock, well, they got all they're getting today, right? But and so what I've had to do is kind of guard my space and guard my personal time. Something in this job, agents will gravitate to you. Help them out of a tough situation. You help them along the way, and you become their favorite broker. And part of what I had to tell them is, get away. It fed my ego at first when people would say I was their favorite broker, but really we've got 14 other brokers, that are competent and capable, and I'm in here with you right now. If somebody's waiting for me to help them,
sure.
I've got 14 other people right now ready to help them on the phone and in the broker room. So I try to encourage agents to, you have your favorites, whatever, but know that we're all competent and we all have strengths that others might not have. So it's a great team. It's a tightly wound cord, 14 banded cord, if you will, 15 now, and that's just incredible.
I love it.
Yeah.
So where do you see yourself maybe in the next year or two? Are you looking at the political positions, president of Texas? I don't know what we would call it. So they used to have regionals, right? I remember Sheila and Ron were a part of that, where it was kind of weird. Michael Urito, I think, was over Sheila, and Sheila was the Texas broker, but then Michael was also under. And then they replaced him with Ron or something, and Ron was his boss.
Okay.
It was a weird combination. But we didn't have a lot of brokers at the time.
We have managing brokers at the broker level, at the executive level. You have managing brokers, you have a designated managing broker, and you have a regional operations manager, now called a CEO. Yes. And, I aspire to climb the ladder higher. I'm happy with EXP. I'm sold on the company. I've never seen an opportunity to build wealth like I've seen at EXP in the history of my career. There are others that say they do that, but I've never seen that opportunity.
A lot of copycats going.
Man, without a doubt, when you're doing something well, others come in.
Yeah, resetting this and starting over, I can't even imagine it. The timing was perfect.
Yes.
The opportunity was there. We grew at the right speed. We were able to get the stock at the right time. And then everyone else is like, okay, well, we got to have stock. We got to have insurance. We got to have it. They just copy it. Yeah. But you can't copy culture and systems and EXP world and all those things simultaneously. Yeah. I don't see how it's possible. I'm not, a business builder, but man.
You're copying me. You're behind me.
Yeah, that's right.
I ran an office.
We're already going on to the next level. Yeah, the next step.
Yeah.
And the franchise problem is that they're stuck and they can't move.
Right.
They can't move past
They want to adapt, but I liken it to the Best Buys of the industry, right? Or I'm sorry, Blockbusters of the industry, right? Sitting above and looking down and saying nobody's going to want to wait for their DVD to show up by mail, which is, I think, that's how Netflix started, right? Didn't you have to mail in for your
They opened the concept of Blockbuster
DVD
to buy Netflix, and Netflix tried to have Blockbuster buy them. Blockbuster said, no, I'm not interested. We're going to move into the DVD
where are they now?
Business.
Their mindset was, who's going to, the families want to come in on Friday. They get 4 or 5 movies. They get some candy. They pay late
30 years
fees.
ago I did that.
They pay late fees,
Right.
Nobody's going to change, and they sat there on their model. And so I look at some of these conventional brokers now, especially with COVID, they were trying to pivot. They're trying to adapt, right? Now people aren't coming into an office. They don't want them in. They can't come in. And it's just amazing. Take a look at the numbers and look at some of our competition, and you'll see that they're not profitable. Yeah. You'll see that they're laying people off. I had a company come after me pretty hard, made me a really good offer. I entertained. I listened to what they had to say, but in my last interview with them, which was my 3rd or 4th interview in that, they asked what I thought about the place that I was, EXP, and about their company. And I said, well, I've got a company that just laid off in their company 700 people asking me to come to work for them. And I have another company that's hiring people. And so that concerns me. Needless to say, that was my last interview with them, right? But I mean, one of my favorite speakers, his line was, behavior never lies. Behavior never lies. And when I look at business models, look at what they're doing, not at what they're saying. Look at their numbers. You've got great folks. Our peers in all of these brokerages, we're all under the same brand, or those that are realtors are under the realtor brand. So they're my brothers and my sisters, right? People can be successful in any system, but EXP, revolutionary company. At one of the events I was in last year, an agent asked about moving into production, and I said I've considered the move to production from this position back into being a producing
agent.
agent.
You always have it in the back of your mind.
Yeah, right.
When you're a broker, you have a license. Why couldn't you? You certainly could sell real estate better than most any.
And
it's
I
always
thought,
in the back of your mind.
if I leave the company, if I leave this position, I'm staying right here at EXP. I've not seen a model like this. I've not seen a model. It's interesting. It's creative. It's innovative, forward thinking. So I'm at the right place without a doubt.
Sure. I mean, I went from independent brokerage. I got to keep everything.
Yeah, right.
To doing 10, 12 million a year.
Yeah.
I go to EXP and I triple it.
Yes.
And I went from 10 agents to 30 agents. I make more money. I have a retirement. I have insurance. Why in the world would I run my own brokerage ever again?
Why?
I have no liability. I have no broker responsibility for anything.
I have your responsibility.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm handling calls for your agents. I'm getting them out of track jail.
That's right.
I'm dealing with their unhappy clients. I'm retaining the files. We're checking compliance. We're issuing the CDAs. I mean, it's like, you want to go to these independents and say, hey, go join the contingent in Puerto Rico. You've worked hard. It's commendable. You've done a great job. Now, let's put it in somebody else's hand. Keep your same team and go out and attract and recruit.
Any last few things you would like to share? Because we're going to go ahead and wrap it up before we go.
No, I appreciate the opportunity. You and I met, we've met before, and then we had a recent interaction, and I'm just amazed at what you've been able to do and how you've been able to monetize, take what's in your head, your experience, your knowledge, and monetize that in a way that works to empower other people too. And I just love that. And I'm a fan, so I hope that we have an opportunity to work together and to do some things, because I'm really looking forward to that. And one thing you'll learn about me is if I don't mean those things, I don't say them. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. How would any way that people can find you, or do you have anything, or is it really you're behind the scenes and you're more support for EXP agents? I usually kind of leave with things like that.
Yeah, I've got a TikTok account that I'm getting off the ground, and I've invested in a domain called the Broker Minute. So if you're going to watch me, I would keep an eye on the Broker Minute.
Okay.
And I'm going to start building that brand for sure. That's one of the best ways to get
that.
Mm-hmm. Trainings, advice,
current issues going on,
current issues, problematic situations that I encounter frequently that I get in and give my interpretation or my advice on those. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you, Rick.
Hey, brother.
We'll close it out today. I appreciate having Rick on with us, and lots of good information about retirement and building his future and investing. I love all that. He's been inspirational for me in a lot of those things. But you could find me. You guys know where I'm at on YouTube. It's Sean Corbett on the YouTube channel. So I appreciate it. Until next time, thank you.